actually get to sit down and rest for a few moments. So why don't you give them a round of applause? Absolutely amazing. They've worked so hard, so tirelessly, and sounded so incredible. Really, really well done. Isn't it great singing these carols? You enjoy singing them year after year. We sing the same carols that tell this incredible story. And what I find interesting, I think as human beings, we are wired for story. Like, we love stories. We tell stories. I reckon now, if you were to turn to the person next to you, you could recall a story from years and years ago in great detail. Who was there, what they were wearing, what happened, the funny moments, the sad moments, the interesting moments. You could reveal all these details, even though it happened so long ago. We are wired for stories. Since the beginning of time, we have used stories to transport things through time. You think back, you've got cave paintings, you've got hieroglyphics. We go through letters and books and movies and tales, stories that become the main mode of transport for knowledge and history, for pleasure, and really for anything necessary. Then at Christmas time, at this time of year, stories seem to take on this whole other meaning. We love the traditional stories this time of year. It's only this time of year that we do the same thing. This time of year, we watch the same movies. We read the same books. We sing the same songs over and over and over and over and over and over again. Now, you could watch the same movie, read the same book that you've done for decades, and just because it's Christmas time, we'll keep returning to it over and over and over. And I've got 15 minutes to fill, over and over again. And what I wanted to do is to settle an age-long debate here and now. Because we love a good Christmas story. We love Christmas movies. In our house, this discussion can sometimes creep over into an argument. And I'm sure in your table, this may happen in this moment. I want to discover what is the greatest Christmas story that we know. Now, we'll do it the diplomatic way. We'll do a show of hands. And I'll be honest, I'm not judging you, but everyone else is. And so in this moment, if you think Home Alone, not Home Alone 3, 4, and 5. They are so terrible they don't exist. Just Home Alone 1 and 2. Home Alone 1 and 2, are they the greatest story ever told? What about the Grinch? We love the Grinch. We love the Grinch's story. There's an animated Grinch now, if you love the Grinch so much. What about the Santa Claus? You know the one with Dudley Moore, where the elf tries to make the sleigh fly with filling it with candy canes? What about the other Santa Clauses? We've got Tim Allen, you've got Santa Claus 1 and 2 and 3, where Jack Frost enters and tries to steal Christmas. Spoilt the ending. What about It's a Wonderful Life? Any fans of It's a Wonderful Life? We go really classic. Yeah? What about Muppets Christmas Carol? Yeah. What about Mickey's Christmas Carol? What about Jim Carrey's Christmas Carol? What about Patrick Stewart's Christmas Carol? What about Christmas Carol the musical? Or the most important one of all, what about Blackadder's Christmas Carol? What about one of the most beloved Christmas stories of all time, Die Hard? Any fans? What about Lord of the Rings? I'm trying to convince Maria that Lord of the Rings are a Christmas story because they were released at Christmas. That's how it works. Maybe you're into TV shows. Maybe you enjoy The Vicar of Dibley. Maybe the 3 lunch incident, which sounds great. I'm hoping for that to happen at one point. What about the royal family Christmas events? There's all these different stories. And really, we know the script. You probably sit through these movies and you know what they're about to say. You don't need captions on. You know what they're going to do. You know what is coming up. We laugh at the same moments and we cry at the same moments. We feel overwhelmed with joy and comfort as the story reaches its familiar ending. Yet, without apologizing, we will return to these stories year after year. Why? Why is it? What is it about these stories that will keep us coming back even though we know what is going to happen? What is it about these stories that fill us with the same emotions in the same moments, yet we can't get enough of them? And I think the reason we do it with these stories is that These stories strike a chord with the deep desires that every person has. So we love the hero completing the mission. We love it when the little boy defends his house against the bad guys. We love it when the mean old Grinch has his heart enlarged and becomes a nice old Grinch. We love a satisfying end to the quest. And if you are into your cheesy Christmas movies, you love it when the couple you know at the start of the movie are going to get together by the end, but they don't know it for the next excruciating 2 hours of your life until one of them discovers, oh, I actually do love them. And so they always come back to a different part and they fall in love eventually. We love these stories. We all have these desires for hope, for love, for joy, for redemption, for reconciliation. But these are just stories of human invention. These were just movies that were made to entertain us, but more than that, they were just stories made to make money. They may lift us for a moment. They make us feel good for a fleeting time in this season, but they end. And we don't think about them until the next year rolls around and we watch them again. But what if there's a better story? What if there's a story that is actually central, not just to Christmas, but a story that is so central that all of history rests on the hinges of what happens here? What if there was a story that you could find all of those deep desires met? And look for a moment at that scene you created on your table, in all of its colorful glory, in all of the terrible and extremely incredible design. Look at that scene for a moment. Look at what you have created and think about this story. Think about this story that you're looking at. This is a bizarre story. The nativity story is a strange and bizarre story. Because we have a story where an angel appears to a teenage girl, tells her that she's going to be pregnant even though she's a virgin, and that the child she is going to bear is the Son of God. And she tells her fiancé that they're going to have a child. And their community, this is a huge problem to have a baby outside of marriage. And she and he are going to bear the stigma of that for the rest of their lives. Because a census is called, they have to travel back to Bethlehem, which if you were paying attention to the quiz, you would realize is a 90-mile journey. So they make it on a donkey. And when they get to Bethlehem, the traditional story is that there's no room in any of the places because of the census. All the people have come back to register, so there's no place for them to stay. And so they end up in a lowly, dirty, stingy, and dark stable. She ends up giving birth in this stable and laying the Son of God in a feeding trough for the animals. And then a little while later, if things aren't weird enough, 3 wise men turn up with not very child-friendly gifts at this moment, but very important gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And then we have shepherds arrive on the scene who they have been in the presence of angels who have sang to them in their fields and tell them about this baby that has been born. You picture that scene. This is a weird story. And yet, millions of people all around the world live their lives by the person born on this night. You think it's strange that we celebrate a whole season of the year that is centered on, that began with and originates from this story. People with faith, people without faith, and people in the middle all celebrate something that comes from that scene on your table. Why does this story matter so much to so many people? It was C.S. Lewis, the author of another Christmas favorite, the Narnia Chronicles. He said, at Christmas, we remember the central event in the history of the earth, the very thing the whole story is about. All the carols we've sung, and all the carols we sing every single year in churches, in schools, in community halls, and in arenas, they all tell the story of this baby born in Bethlehem. This story matters. This story matters because it's the story of Jesus Christ. This story matters because without Christ, there is no Christmas. Without this scene, there is no hope. There is none of this season. It's just cold and dark for the sake of it. This story matters because it's the story of the Saviour. It's said to Mary in Matthew's Gospel, as the angel appears to her, it says that she will give birth to a son, and you are to name him Jesus because he will save his people from their sins. The truth is, God has created this world in perfection. God created it in its beauty and declared over it, it is good. And yet sin entered the world, and what sin has done, it has separated all of humanity from its creator. It's separated us from God. God is holy, and so anything that is not of his standard and his perfection and his kindness and his love, it can't be in his presence. It can't be with him. And so for all eternity, humanity has been separated. And we see the earth that we live in. We see the darkness and the evil that is going on, even in our time, that has gone on throughout the generations. And now because all have sinned, sin has separated us. Because every person born into this earth is born into it, is born into this sin and born into this separation from God. There's no one worthy enough to pay the price. The debt that our sin requires, there's nobody good enough, nobody that is holy enough, nobody that does all the right things, all the right time, in all the right moments. There is nobody. And so because there's nobody, there's no hope. There's no chance of rescue until this night, in this stable, as God himself takes on humanity. This baby born in the stable is the one who dies on the cross. This baby that is crying in the manger is the one who cries out on that cross, it is finished. This baby sleeping in his mother's arms is the one who rises from the dead. So the story matters because if you take logical thinking, if there is no birth of the Savior, then there can be no death of the Savior. And if there's no death of the Savior for our sin, then there can be no resurrection to conquer the effects and the power of sin. So if there's no resurrection, then there's no hope, there's no life, there's no joy, there is no eternity for anyone. And yet, amidst the ever-shifting landscape of stories and narratives where we are bombarded with unending streams of negative, disturbing news, there exists one story that remains unchanged. This tale is of hope and redemption, offering light in the midst of darkness to anybody willing to listen. This is a story that transcends time, and its message is as relevant today as when it was written. This is the story that is good news, a story that endures long after the Christmas season has passed. So why does this story matter? It matters because it's the story of how God so loved this world. And let me change that a little bit. It's the story of how God so loved you that he sent his one and only Son to be born on this night in obscurity, to live his life in purity, and to die on a cross for you. It matters because of how this story ends. This story doesn't end at Boxing Day. This story ends at Easter. This story where this baby that is now a man, he suffers, is humiliated and tortured, and ultimately is hung on a cross because of the love that he has for all mankind. So now this man on a cross dies so that anyone who believes in him can come and receive this story from him and have life, have true joy, have hope and purpose and meaning. This story matters because it's the story of Jesus Christ who came to take away the sins of the world and fully accomplished it. This story matters because it's the only true answer to every person's deepest desires. So this Christmas, let me challenge you to think about and investigate this story. Think and investigate about why do so many millions of people worship the person born on that night. Think about and investigate why God would love this world so much that he would send his only son for you. What you'll find with this story is that it will stand up to your questions. This story will face up to your doubts. And ultimately, this story will provide what your heart truly longs for above all else, the Saviour. Why don't we stand? We're going to sing one final carol together as we welcome the team back. We're going to stand. We're going to sing, "O Come All Ye Faithful." And let me challenge you to see if you can sing so loud that it hurts.